Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. You can share in the chat where you're from. It's great to have you here. Haven't seen you all year, so I hope you came for the dad jokes. So. We'll do the welcome, warm up with some Ask the Audience poll questions, have some announcements and introductions. Then we'll have our presentation from Brandi Beals on underutilized Tableau features, and that followed by a time to ask questions. And then we'll end with prizes, prizes and wrap up. So yeah. We're so happy to have you here. You can post questions in the chat as we go along, or save them towards the end of Brandi's presentation if you'd like. We really emphasize abiding by the Tableau Community Code of Conduct and treating each other with kindness and respect. So let's get into the Ask the Audience poll questions. So this is with this website and joinmyquiz.com with the game code 169489. I'll put a link in the chat if I can. It's a data, we're data pride. So of course we've got to get some data on where everybody's at. So I see Brandi's joined, Lawrence has joined. Welcome, Mary Kate, Paulina, Jen. And one thing with this quiz is it has you pick correct answers and incorrect answers, but there's no wrong answers here. It's like, whose line is it anyway? The points don't matter. So just keep that in mind. Okay. Let's get started. Okay. So the join my quiz link is right there too. Serious business. Where are you joining us from? So kind of a warm-up question. Milwaukee, Brooklyn. Boston, Pittsburgh, California. Very cool.
Now I've got a mix. Saw California. Now I have a mix of Hotel California and California love. And I don't even remember what. Yep, in my head now.
So, silly question. Would you rather have, oh, sorry, infinite chocolate, or would you rather have infinite coffee? And it did pair up the two Brooklyns. Coffee is winning out. It's a tie. Good point. I can function without chocolate, but can't function without coffee. I'm kind of the same. Okay, getting into the Tableau questions. How long have you been using Tableau? Got some experienced users in the group with more than 4 years. With some less than a year. Interesting. How much do you know about Tableau Server? Not a lot. I've learned about it from some resources. I'm working towards Tableau Server certification, or I'm a Tableau Server qualified associate. Not a lot. Okay, so I think you'll learn more during our presentation today. I'm kind of the same way about my Tableau experience. There's before the pandemic and before and after. Okay, we have a server admin in attendance too. Very cool. And last question. Where do you want to hear about upcoming Data Pride Tug events? And if you have other suggestions from these, share them in the chat. And it's a check all that applied. So you can choose as many as you want. Okay. So most said email, Twitter, LinkedIn, Slack. Got it. Thanks for the feedback. Yeah, good to know. So thanks for letting us ask the audience. So.
Galen, to answer your question, no, we don't at the current moment. So the question here is, do we have a specific slot? We don't at the moment. We're working to build something that is safe for everyone when it comes to the LGBTQ community, and that, you know, we can monitor and do things like that. You noted something absolutely fantastic, which is out in tech, which is a wonderful tech nonprofit focused on the LGBTQ community. So hoping to take some, you know, lessons learned from their Slack and other things to try and build our community. But at this moment, we do not. We're still in the midst of doing that, though.
Definitely. So thanks, everyone. Since the last time we met, we created a account, a profile on Tableau Public. With the it's the Data Pride Tableau user group. So we've added some vizzes that we shared last time that related to Pride Month or other LGBTQ topics. We have a survey where you can share your feedback. Thank you, Lawrence, for putting the link in the chat. We have a call for presenters. It's just a quick form for you to tell us kind of what you have in mind if you'd like to present at a future meeting. We'd love to have your participation and feedback. Our next meeting will be Thursday, March 9th at 1 p.m. Central, and the details for that are coming up soon. So stay tuned. My name is Sarah Carr. I'm on Twitter and LinkedIn. Feel free to add me there. I've been using Tableau here and there since 2018, 2019, but really got involved in 2020. and I work in the public sector as a research analyst for the state of Wisconsin. So human resources data at first, and I've shifted to criminal justice data because there's a lot of opportunities with the state. So it's really interesting. Lawrence, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Lawrence Durbin. My pronouns are he, him, his. Currently, I've been working in Tableau since 2018, really working with the data fam since 2021. I am a Tableau social ambassador, co-lead of the Data Pride Tug here with Sarah, which is absolutely fantastic. I help lead the Denver Tug as well for those in Colorado. And it's been just an amazing ride over the past year and a half when it comes to working with the data fam. Currently, I'm in between roles, but definitely looking for what's out there and kind of enjoying fun employment. So yeah, that's me.
Thanks. And would you like to talk more about the Data Pride Tug and
Of
the
course.
mission?
Of course. So the mission of the Data Pride Tug is to highlight, elevate, and bring together the LGBTQ plus community in data and its allies. And this is to give voice and show individuals that the LGBTQ community is out there, give us representation in data, and bring us together. One of the biggest things that there is the more diverse teams are, the more diverse perspectives you get when working on anything, whether it's data or any kind of problem, the better solutions you're going to have. And so really bringing us all together with that. I'm a huge person for the wisdom of crowds, and that's, what we're trying to do here. And we want to, elevate everyone with learning about different things from, design to Tableau Server with Brandi today to so many different things to help all of our experiences also.
Absolutely. Thank you. So our speaker today is Brandi Beals. She's joining us from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And she's been using Tableau for almost 13 years. And she's a data analytics manager and Tableau Server admin, and also a Tableau community leader and blogger. I don't know how you find time to do all the things you do, leading different Tableau user groups and the Data Book Club. It's just so great to have you here. It really means a lot. She lives in Milwaukee with her wife and 2 dogs. And when she's not doing Tableau things, she loves riding her Harley motorcycle, which I think is pretty cool. And you can follow her and check out her blog posts at brandibeals.com, and that also has her social media links. So welcome, Brandi. Thank you so much for being here.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me and giving me such a wonderful intro. I appreciate it. Yeah. It helps, I will say, to not have children. You know what I mean? Like, parents out there, like, I give it up for parents, but when you don't have kids, you get to
The dogs will just nap when you're like
well,
on a
yeah,
Zoom
and my
call
dogs,
or whatnot.
my dogs are older now, so they definitely love their naps. They're not as they don't need as many walks as they did before. I'm like scared to use that keyword.
Yeah.
So,
Gotta
yeah,
spell.
great to be here. Thanks for having me. Let me get started by sharing my screen. So I will say that I'm a huge fan of, questions and comments and feedback. I know we have that chat box, so I'll be kind of keeping an eye on it. Yeah, yes, Wendy, exactly. But I'll keep an eye on it. So would love to kind of have a conversation with you. If you have any comments or questions, throw them in the chat. I'll monitor it, but I know Lawrence is as well. So I'm here today to talk about a blog series that I did recently called Underutilized Tableau Features. And I'm going to talk about 3 of them. today. But before I kind of dive into the details of what I'm going to cover, I do have like an intro slide about me. I know Sarah just gave me a great introduction, but I think it might help to know that, yes, I'm a data analytics manager, but I'm also the Tableau Server admin at my company. I'm the lone person here, I think, who has that certification. It was a good exercise to go through, Jen. So I think it's wonderful that you're considering the certification. I think certifications help to fill in the gaps in your knowledge. So I'm glad I did it. But anyway, so I'm the manager, the admin, but I also run our internal center of practice. And so I'm very interested in, educating people and giving them self-service tools to, analyze their own data, to really drive at that data culture and just change management around picking up new tools, technologies, and concepts. And so I wear a lot of hats, but they're all kind of focused around making data useful, especially within an enterprise. And then, in my free time, I do a lot more with Tableau. I'm very passionate about the product. I do lead a few user groups and the book club. And I'm going to actually talk a little bit more later about the book club and the Data Career Summit if you're interested in learning more about that. So I'll kind of put a pin in that. But probably most importantly, my most important role is being a wife and dog mom. So my wife is also a data person. This is us at the Tableau conference a few years ago. I think that is probably a reason that I'm so involved in the data community, because we're both involved in the data community, and I have someone to talk data stuff with, both when I'm at work and when I'm not at work. We have the most nerdy conversations. Like Thanksgiving we talk about data. It's ridiculous, but it's nice to have somebody. She's definitely more technical than I am. She has a computer science background, whereas I have a business background. So we're able to kind of provide different perspectives, even just, in our own little world. And then if you want to see pictures of our dogs, here they are. So they are older, 13 and 12 now. But that's a little bit about me. So let's dive in. Oh, all right. Lawrence already has a question. Do you work in Tableau Server, Cloud, or both? So for me personally, we have Tableau Server, which is an on-prem installation. Tableau Cloud, which also used to be called Tableau Online, is like a SaaS product that Tableau offers, which essentially just means that, you don't have to manage that platform. But essentially, and this is actually a great segue, because basically I'm going to say Tableau Server, but Tableau Cloud, if you're on Tableau Cloud instead, has the same features. So great question. All right. Cool. Let's talk a little bit more about what I'm going to cover today. So I'm actually going to jump over real quick to Tableau Cloud. This is my development environment. And actually, for anybody who's interested in learning more about Tableau Server or Tableau Cloud, Tableau offers what they call a developer program, where you can sign up for free. You can get access to a Tableau Cloud environment, but it's a dev environment, or like beta. But it gives you the ability to play around with some of maybe the features that I'm going to show you, or features that you might be interested in a safe space. It's basically a sandbox. And you can kind of try out all these things if you want to try your hand at Tableau Server administration. So definitely should check that out. I'm sorry, my dog is barking. So before we dive in, I think a little bit deeper on Tableau Server and Tableau Cloud stuff, I think it's helpful to put this product in context. So when we think about the suite of products, essentially, that Tableau, the company, offers, I'm sorry. She's very excited, probably because the mail's coming. So Tableau's suite of products, right? The core product really is Tableau Desktop. That's that developer tool. You've got Tableau Prep, which helps prepare and transform your data. And then if you're familiar with Tableau Public, that's kind of like a free version of Tableau Desktop. But then there's Tableau Server and Tableau Cloud. Technically, they're different products, but they're really kind of the same thing. It's just one's hosted by you and the other is hosted by Tableau. And so the first three products are developer tools, whereas the Tableau Server product is not, right? It's honestly, I think about it as a way that allows you to kind of take your Tableau creations to the next level. It gives enterprise organizations scale, and it kind of unlocks a lot of additional features, especially for your end users. If you're developing a Tableau dashboard and you share it with people, it allows those people to kind of do more with what you've already created. So I'm going to highlight some of my favorite features within Tableau Server that are underutilized. So if you're new to Tableau Server, I am not actually going to be covering the basics today. I'm going to be talking about kind of those little obscure things that I think are really valuable, but underappreciated. So I'm curious if you're able to or willing to share. I'd love to know whether you have Tableau Server or Tableau Cloud and maybe how you kind of use it. So if you want to post that in the chat, I'd love to hear it. I think a very common use case that people use Tableau Server for is to set up either a data refresh. So you're building a workbook or dashboard and you get new data every day or every week or some recurring schedule. When you publish that workbook out to Tableau Server, you can set up a refresh. So, hey, go get new data from this database or from this file every week. That's a very common use case. And then there's also the ability to set up a subscription, which is basically just like a snapshot of a dashboard that gets emailed to you or to any number of end users who have access. So those are all some kind of common features, and they're really around automation, right? Being able to kind of like automate your creation. Super powerful stuff, but we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about other stuff. So we're going to dive in, and there's three things that I'm going to talk about. The first one is something called descriptions. Then I'm going to show you comments, and then finally alerts. So I'm going to talk a little bit about each one of those, how I use them, and then if there's any like kind of caveats or things that you need to watch out for. But I'd also love to hear, like, I know I don't know everything, so I'm going to share what I know. But if you know other stuff that you think would be valuable for the group, I highly encourage you all to share that information as well. Okay, thank you, Lawrence, for sharing that link to the developer program. It's super cool. I also have a blog post that outlines exactly how to go through signing up for that. Yeah, and then Jen is considered, they have server, but switching to cloud. I'm in the same boat. So I feel like we should honestly have like a brain date that just talks about the pros and cons and trade-offs. So excellent. Okay, lots of server usage. But again, the things I'm going to show you are available in both. Okay, so let's start with descriptions. Whenever you publish something to the server, and I'm actually going to pop over to desktop real quick. And if I go to publish this workbook, when I go to publish this, and this happens both with a data source or with a workbook, I don't use Tableau Prep, so I don't know about that, but there's this description box here. And most of the time, I don't know about you, but most of the time, I don't fill this in. And not many people I know fill this in. But I've become more of a proponent of filling in the description, both for like projects or folders that you create on Tableau Server, for data sources, and for workbooks. My problem is I hate starting from scratch every time. And it's kind of difficult, I think, to write a concise and potentially consistent description. And so that's probably why I never do it. I'm either just like, I'll either write 3 words here that are either super generic or too specific, and they really lose meaning over time. So it's really about, in my mind, finding the right balance between a description that gives you the right amount of information and the right type of information. And so I've been doing a lot of thinking about this. So I actually want to take a look at descriptions in the Tableau Server environment, and we can kind of talk about, kind of where they show up and why they're beneficial. And then I'll give you some tips, I guess, on the way I make use of them. So when you go to Tableau Server, you kind of land on this homepage initially, but my preference is to actually go to the Explore section and kind of navigate through. So at the top level are these, what Tableau calls projects, but they're basically just folders. And you can create different projects for different type of content, right? Just like you might do in Google Drive or on your Windows Explorer. But what I do is when I create a new project, I will fill in this description, okay? And so here you can see some of the projects I've created. And when I hover over any of these projects, there is a description right here. So this project is a space for my resume and data on professional events, speaking engagements, and research publications. Sounds very fancy. But lots of these projects, every project has a brief description, okay? Similarly, if I go into one of these projects, I can then see, these are some metrics, we've got a workbook, we've got some data sources. But if I hover over this workbook, I also see a description here. So I've taken the time to add a description here, talking about why this workbook was developed, what it's meant to, what questions it's meant to answer, and who is really the primary user or audience of this, right? At least for me, when I develop a workbook, I usually am developing it to answer a specific set of questions for a specific group of people. And I want that to be really clear to anyone else who's using this, right? Like, this is what this was designed for. If this description does not sound like you, this might not be the dashboard for you, right? So workbook descriptions, and then also descriptions on data sources. So here I have a data source that is around my education and experience, because this is my resume. And I talk about how this data source is intended to answer questions about that exact information, but I even describe the what each record represents. At least that's what makes sense in my mind. Like, I want to understand the level of granularity within this data source. So these are descriptions, okay? One of the great benefits of adding a description to your content is that that text becomes searchable. So for end users who might not know to navigate through the different folders, if they're just on the home screen and they want to search for education, when they do that, they can see that there's a lens with education, there's a data source. Well, and this is doing a keyword search. Education is actually on the name of the object. So let's see if we can find a better keyword to use to show you that. So if I search for the word speaking, like speaking engagements, for example, the project itself doesn't have the word speaking in the name of the project, but it does have it in the description. And so any keywords that you put in that description also show up in your search results. Okay. So for me, that's the benefit of the descriptions. It helps your end users find what they need and make sure that they have the right stuff. Okay, so hopefully you're sold on the benefit. What sucks is, again, how difficult it can be to write good descriptions. So I've been thinking a lot about it, and I wrote a blog post about this. And in the blog post, I actually provide templates because I have templates of my own that I use, and the templates might work for you, but you might also need to customize them, because depending on how you use projects or how you develop your workbooks and data sources, you want to make sure that you're capturing the right information for you and your organization. So these are just some things that I've thought about and considered when thinking about projects. Hopefully these questions might, get you thinking about the information that you feel like is needed in your description. So I have this template here, for example, and essentially I just fill in the blanks. It's the most nerdy, like Mad Libs for game ever, okay? But I have sample templates for projects, for data sources, and for workbooks, okay? So that's descriptions. I'm curious, maybe if anybody has used descriptions before, find them useful. Yeah, that's a good point. You can put so much in descriptions, like, hey, this workbook is embedded in this website or something. Or, hey, this dashboard is made public or something. I'm not really sure what pieces of information would be valuable, but absolutely. Cool. So that is descriptions. Next is comments. So interestingly enough, so we're all, I think, pretty, like, commenting is like a common thing, right? If you have like a Word document that maybe multiple people are collaborating on and you want to add a comment to a line, or you're in Dropbox Paper or Google Docs, like, and you want to add a comment to something, like, commenting is very common. Yes. Is there just me? I don't know. But you can do the same thing in Tableau, but I feel like it's just people don't even realize, because there's so many buttons, right? There's so many little things in Tableau, but we're going to talk a little bit more about comments. So if you launch a viz, so maybe your end user just has a bookmark to something, or they get sent a subscription email and they click on that image and they get taken directly to your viz, or maybe they navigate to the viz. However they get to it, you now have this like dashboard that's been launched here, right? So in the second toolbar, so there's kind of this first one that provides breadcrumbs and your logo, but there's a bar right below that. And depending on what version of Tableau Server you have, the bar could be blue, like it is here, or gray, but either way, it's the second bar. And there is either this comment button or a button that says comments. But when you click this, it opens up this pane on the right-hand side. And I've already produced a comment here because I wrote a blog post about this. But essentially, you can add a comment here. And it makes for an easy way to have a dialogue right in Tableau without having to like go to Slack or send an email or whatever. They can do it right here. What I will say is when I teach people about this feature, I always like to encourage people to @mention someone, because unless everyone has this comment pane open, which it's not open by default, nobody's going to know that the comment is there. So just like in Slack or in really any other, like, even in Outlook these days, right? You can @mention someone. So I highly encourage that, but you could even, this is a great way if you're working on, developing a dashboard and it's still kind of in draft mode and you have back and forth feedback. You could definitely use comments there, but even in a dashboard that is, kind of in a steady state, sometimes there are data issues and you can use comments to kind of quickly get notified. So your end users can be like, oh no, Brandi, wrong Brandi, because I have myself set up in here twice, don't judge. It looks like the data is wrong or out of date or whatever, and I mean, I don't want to throw shade on our end users, but you know that they don't give very great descriptions. You know, it's like the data's wrong. Like, more info would be great, please. So another thing I like to encourage people to do when they use comments is to click this button that you have no idea what it means until you hover over it. So slight design flaw, I think, on Tableau's side, but nonetheless, by clicking this, you can add a snapshot of the view. So let's say someone is, you know, in here, they're navigating around, they're clicking on things, and they find a data error. Right, okay, hey, it looks like the data is wrong. If they click this button, it will include an image or a screenshot of how that dashboard looked when they were making that comment. So I can see what filters they've selected or the things that they've clicked on to lead to this incorrect data. So it makes it just really easy to kind of figure out what happened, you know, when you can see exactly the view that your end users are looking at. So when that happens, we actually, the person who's @mentioned gets an email, and I'm actually just going to bring that up. So I just got this email saying, hey, you know, you were mentioned in a comment. It looks like the data is wrong. And then there's a little screenshot. So if I click this, it'll take me to that exact same view where I can then look at, you know, what was this person seeing when they got this, when they left me this message. So comments, again, kind of, I think, intuitive because we've seen them everywhere, but you don't really even know that it's an option in Tableau because not turned on by default, and you kind of have to click this like kind of small button. So it's kind of out of the way. So highly encourage, like I just, again, encourage people to use that feature, @mention someone, include snapshots. And, you know, you can kind of provide that feedback right in the Tableau platform.
So Brandi, Jen had a good question here. Do comments specify which version history the comment was associated with? So like if you, especially in businesses, if you have a workbook that you overwrite and consistently like every new version, does it include those version histories like what you would see in a previous version when you look at it?
Great. I don't know. I don't think so. Just in my experience, we don't like overwrite workbooks so frequently. Like if I were to get that comment, that email, saying someone made a comment, I'd probably go and check it out like pretty quickly. So I'd be looking at the same version. So I've never actually run into that problem. That said, every comment is time-stamped. So, you know, I think knowing what the version history looks like, along with that timestamp, you could figure out what version you're looking at. So I don't have the specifics on that, but it's a really good question. I do wonder, like, I kind of think about that too when thinking about custom views in Tableau. So if you're not sure, this is like maybe a bonus tip. When you're looking at a Tableau dashboard, there's this like view button, and sometimes in the older versions of Tableau, it might say custom views, but essentially you can customize your perspective on a dashboard. So if I'm like, I only care about events that are, you know, 2020 or later, you can come in here, make that selection, and then create a custom view that, you know, always is filtered there. Now, this maybe isn't a great example, but you could imagine a sales dashboard where maybe I'm the salesperson for the Midwest region. And when I go to the dashboard, I want to see Midwest, but when Lawrence goes, he wants to see like the West region or something like that. It could be the same dashboard, but we both have custom views set up. Anyway, so I know that this isn't an answer for Jen's question, but I do wonder whether, you know, if someone's looking at a custom view, do you kind of get that in this view button? It looks like when you click view, it loads it as of that time, but I'm not sure about the version. So I'm sorry, Jen, great question with no answer. Okay, so that's comments. The last feature I was going to talk about is something called alerts. So if you're familiar with subscriptions, if you're in the new version of Tableau Server, you can go to watch and there's a subscription where you can get an email snapshot of the view. But there's also something called alerts. And alerts are kind of like subscriptions, but they're data driven. Okay, so for example, this is my resume. It's just kind of my demo dashboard that I always use. But for example, here we have LinkedIn endorsements for Tableau. And so far I have 73 endorsements. And let's say well, you know what, this isn't a great one because in order to set up an alert, maybe this is a lesson learned. Lesson learned with alerts is that in order to set up an alert, so you click on watch, you click on alert, and then the alert pane comes up. In order to create an alert, you need to select an axis. And because I've disabled the axes on these charts, I can't do it. So I'm going to go to a different dashboard to show that. Okay, so here I just have some more demo dashboards. But I'm hoping one of these has an axis. So, okay. So this one has custom views already set up, but let's go to the watch and alerts. And again, the older versions of Tableau Server, now I'm not remembering exactly what's along that top bar, but in this bar, you will have watch, you'll have alerts, or you'll have just an alerts button. The process is generally the same. And in this case, we have to select a numeric axis and then click create. So in this case, if I'm like interested in, let's see, sales, maybe that's why I did that. Okay, so I can create an alert off this axis, this sales axis. So this sales is divided by the different categories, right? But if any of the categories maybe exceeds a certain threshold, in this case, 500. So you can see that line here, this red line. The red line will not appear on your dashboard, but Tableau is just kind of visualizing this for you. So if any sales for any of the categories exceeds 500,000, I want to be sent an alert, which is very similar to a subscription. But again, it's like a data-driven subscription. I'm only going to get that thing sent to me when the condition is met. Okay, so you have the condition of either above or below, above or equal to, etc. You can see anything here, and this could be used to, you know, track any number of metrics that one cares about, right? You could potentially like gamify things and say the first person to reach this goal wins or something. I don't know. There's lots of different ways that you could, or lots of different metrics that you care about. And maybe you want to be alerted. But so you can set the subject the same way that you set a subject on a subscription. And then you can set when the condition is true, send an alert. But you can set the frequency. So you maybe only want to set the frequency once. If you're like, I just want to know who hits the goal first, once is enough. But maybe I want to check this every day or every week, or, you know, as frequently as possible, which might more so be related to like data refresh. And then I can set up the subscriptions, or I'm sorry, who the recipients are. The same way that you do with subscriptions, you can subscribe others. You can subscribe others to your alert, but you can also just make it visible to others. So I may set up the alert, and then if, you know, Sarah goes into this dashboard, she can see that the alert was set up and she can decide to opt in as well if she wants. So when I do that, I'll click create alert. And now, so our view kind of goes back to normal, but now I can see this alert over here. I'm so sorry. My dogs are nuts. Well, just the one dog. But anyway, that's how you set it up alerts. It's quite easy. And I can come in here and, remove myself or change ownership exactly like you would do with a subscription. So now I'm going to give you some bad news around alerts. So, sorry, reading some questions, but we'll come back to those. Bad news about alerts. The first is that with subscriptions, right, when you're out on your landing page for your workbook, you can see how many views are in your workbook, how many data sources, if there's a refresh associated with it, with a subscription associated with it, but you can't see whether there's alerts associated with it. For whatever reason, you have to be on your dashboard and you have to have the alert pane open in order to see what alerts are associated with your dashboard. Inconsistent, I would call that. But the other downside that I've probably found it to be more of an issue. So this feature works 100%, but when we go in and we talk about frequency, right? So let's say I set this up to be every day, okay? Let's say it's every day, and let's say it, if I start it right now, I set it up right now, it'll check every day at like 12:53. And let's say tomorrow at 12:53 and 0 seconds, our sales have exceeded the $500,000 threshold. This alert will trigger and send me an email. But the next day at 12:53 and 0 seconds, oh, and actually real quick, so it'll send the alert, but the alert gets triggered at 12:53 and 0 seconds. But the alert is actually sent at 12:53 and 2 seconds. Let's say it takes 2 seconds for Tableau to understand that the threshold was met and send me the email, okay? So the next day at 12:53 and 0 seconds, because that's when the alert is set up, it will see that that threshold was exceeded, but it'll be like, well, I sent an email less than 24 hours ago, so I will not send another email, even though it was only 23 hours, 59 minutes, and 58 seconds ago. It was still less than 24 hours, right? So kind of annoying. So if you're really expecting this to send it to you every day, that will not happen in this, with this feature. That part I do not really understand, but that's why it says daily at most, because of that timing. So if my verbal description doesn't make a lot of sense, in my blog post, I kind of outline it right here, right? So anyway, just keep that in mind. If you use alerts and you're expecting it every hour, might not work. So those are my 3 kind of favorite underutilized features, things that I think provide just a ton of value that people don't really know much about. So I will now take any questions that there might be. I haven't been doing as great of a job as I was hoping on monitoring the chat. So I see, Jen, you mentioned that it's kind of a restrictive use of alert if it has to be tied to an axis. Yeah, I guess I'd love to know maybe what you are thinking. Like, it would be great, I think, if someone could just select a data point and say, okay, create an alert from here. But yeah, you definitely have to select that axis instead. So, from a design perspective, that can be somewhat unfortunate. So then Wendy asked about making the folder icon an image. Did we cover that and missed it? I did not cover that because I did not talk about how to create projects or folders. I just talked about how to add descriptions. If there's time, we can definitely go, let's just take a look. So if we create a new project, there is a way to add an image. To add an image to the project thumbnail, add the image markup to the end of the description. Okay, so Tableau, if you want to format your description, let's say you want to have a link in there, it needs to be formatted as such, where you have the word link in quotes or whatever text you want to appear in quotes, and then you have a colon and then the actual URL. Bolding is, bookended with the asterisk, et cetera, and links have exclamation points, or images rather have exclamation points on either end. So when you add an image, let's see real quick. Interesting. I'm not able to edit. Fascinating. Okay. I was sure that I could edit.
Do you have to go into the folder first and then do the I?
Yeah, thank you, Lawrence. Yeah. So if I want to potentially add an image here, it looks like I can do exclamation points and then put a link to an image. I want to find the right image because I'm type A like that. I wonder if LinkedIn will let me pull an image. That looks gross, but let's see. There, boom, there you go, Wendy. So yeah, and actually this didn't always used to be the case. Back in my day, you had to do some weird hack to get the image embedded in there. But yeah, all you have to do is put, the image has to be hosted somewhere already, but then you can just have a link to that image or like a reference to that image surrounded by exclamation points. So very cool. Awesome. Thank you for teaching me something, and we learned together on that. Is there a maximum number of alerts that you can set? I don't know. I haven't seen any issues with the number of alerts that have been set. And given other scenarios where Tableau doesn't really have limits on things, I would say no. But it's a great question. Subscriptions can only be sent to people who have access, basically. So subscriptions can only be sent to accounts or people whose email address is in server. That's true, but also they have to have access to that object. So you can't subscribe someone to something in Tableau. They could have access to something else, but if they don't have access to that particular dashboard, they will not be able to receive a subscription. Same is true of alerts. So then Michael mentioned that he did some research and the comments table in the Tableau Postgres database contains the view of the comment. Yes, exactly. So you could join that to the view table to get the version of the view. Absolutely, that's a great point. Yes. so you can use, so behind the scenes, behind Tableau Server, there is a database that contains all sorts of wonderful information about who used what content's out on your server, things like that. You can use that database to get more information. I even sometimes have, I've created a dashboard that monitors for comments in case people don't mention people. I want to at least know that they made a comment. And so I have something like that set up as well. Something to note though, for people considering a move to Tableau Cloud, you do not have access to the Postgres database when you have Tableau Cloud. So that becomes, that option isn't available to you.
To one of the things I think, what I don't know if it's the same for alerts, but I know around subscriptions, it all depends also on how many like refresh tasks you have and the processing power and abilities. Because I know we would have subscriptions that would fail out because of huge data extract pulls or things like that and timing. So I don't know if it's the same for alerts because it's so specific time, like setting sensitive, but that's all I know when it comes to subscriptions.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. And I think alerts kind of tap into the same, the same processors that data extract refreshes, any sort of like process that happens on your server environment, are all within that same kind of those same constraints of memory and, nodes and background processors and all of that fun stuff. So yeah, sometimes like alerts and subscriptions don't get sent because all of the processors are kind of like, hosed up with other things. And that really comes down more to performance management for your server, making sure that you have the right amount of processors for your different peaks of usage and things like that. So yeah, definitely something to consider, but I don't think that's something that you can really control as an end user. That's more of a issue for your Tableau Server admin. So, so those are the three kind of underutilized features that I wanted to share today. I wrote, like I said, this presentation actually originated from these 3 blog posts that I wrote, so I'll share those. But I know we're kind of getting close to time. I saw a few people had to drop off, but there's a few other things I just wanted to share. So obviously here are the resources. I'll share those out with the group. But a few other kind of things that I told you I'd come back to. The first is the Data Book Club. So I lead something called the Data Book Club, where it's a virtual group, and there's, it's free to join. It doesn't cost anything. You're responsible for buying your own book, but we essentially read 4 books a year. And those books, we kind of do them like following the season. So we'll have like a winter season, a spring season, summer, fall, and you can sign up and there's no commitment. So you can sign up and never attend anything. You can attend just this one book. You can just read this one book and then not really participate again in the future. That's fine. So whatever kind of works for you. But essentially, we're reading this book called You Look Like a Thing and I Love You, and it's about AI. So all the books are data related. And so not Tableau specific, but data related. And while we're reading the book, we get together like a few times and have just open discussions. But our first meeting is next Tuesday. So I know it's pretty quick turnaround, but if you want to join, highly recommend getting this book. It's quite an easy read. And we're just talking about the first few chapters that we are kind of looking to discuss next Tuesday, but it's a very easy, funny read if you want to join. Okay. We also have a Slack channel. So if you're not really interested in, or maybe you can't make the meetings, we also have a pretty lively Slack space that, we post resources and have kind of those asynchronous discussions as well. So I'll post that link too. But everyone is welcome to join. Okay. The last thing I just wanted to mention was the Data Career Summit. So this is something new that I started this year. Nope, last year. But essentially, it kind of started off because I was getting a lot of questions. I was a panelist at my alma mater, and I got a lot of questions about what it means to break into the analytics space or get a job in the data space. And a colleague, like a friend of mine, we decided to kind of put together an event to address some of those things. So we did that in August. It went so well that we're doing a second version. So we have an amazing keynote speaker that I think a lot of people here would know who they are, but it hasn't been made public yet, so I can't tell you, but he is awesome. And then we're gonna also have a session about, what does it really mean to be a data engineer versus a data analyst versus a data scientist? So if you're maybe new to the space and you're trying to navigate what works for you, we have 3 kind of practitioners coming to speak about what their day looks like. And then we have collected a bunch of data on different jobs and data, hiring trends and things like that. So we're going to share all those insights. We even have 3 amazing companies coming to talk about how they're investing in data, their vision for data, and they're hiring people. So if you're in that kind of market, this event is really cool. You can register for free, doesn't cost anything to join. And then to hype up the event, we are giving away some books. And if you can enter before the end of January, you can enter to win. So I would actually, don't even worry about registering directly through the website, though you can. I would recommend registering through the giveaway because you get extra entries into the giveaway if you kind of register through there. But the books are Functional Aesthetics for Data Visualization, which is written by Vidya, who works at Tableau, and Bridget Cogley, who is a Tableau visionary. So they just came out with this book a few months ago. They're offering it up as a giveaway. And then a book called Colorwise by Kate, who's like super active on LinkedIn. That one's not Tableau specific, but also really valuable. And so we're giving about those books away. And yeah, that's, I guess, a little bit about the Data Career Summit. Yeah, again, everyone's super welcome to join. So that's all that I really had. Thank you all so much for letting me come in and just nerd out and talk about Tableau stuff. I very much appreciate it.
Thank you, Brandi. That was really helpful content. We really appreciate it, and looking forward to geeking out about about artificial intelligence too. All right. Are there any other questions for Brandi? I didn't see any in the chat. So I think we're good there. I'll share my screen again. And okay, with that, I think it's time for prizes. Oh, thank you for sharing the blog links in the chat. Lawrence, would you do the honors of the attendance prizes?
Yep, so I was finishing through here. I was going to finish noting people. I believe I had everyone there. Cross questions and some of the comments.
I'll give you another minute to do that and switch
Yep.
over to the announcements. Just a reminder from before, we're on Tableau Public. If you want to follow us, you can share your feedback with us at tinyurl.com/tugfeedback. We'd love to have you present at a future meeting. So tinyurl/DP presenters. And our March 9th meeting is going to be about data ethics, and the presenter will be Tableau visionary and author Bridget Cogley. So we're keeping the Milwaukee theme going because she's based in Milwaukee too. And she's inviting your questions and what you'd like to hear about as in the realm of data ethics through January. And so that's at this link here, tinyurl.com/askethics. So share your thoughts there, and she can consider them for the March presentation. So, and before that, you have the Data Career Summit. Coming up in February. So yeah. Lawrence, are you ready?
Yep. And just so before we get to that, I think we can finish up the recording here, and then we'll finish and talk with everyone here. But I want to thank everyone for joining. Sarah, I don't know if you have any last words before I stop the recording.
No.
Awesome. Well, thank you all.